In this video, I'm going to show you how to create surveys using Google Forms. Now, what I'm not going to do in this video is show you how to add questions to a Google form. Once you're in the Google form, adding questions will be pretty self-explanatory. But for a survey, you typically want specific information from the people who respond to the survey. So what you want to do when you're using a Google form for a survey is to be very careful and think ahead about the type of information that you want, and then which type of question is going to best collect that data for you. All right, so a multiple choice question, you're going to give a certain number of responses on the survey, but you're the one who's coming up with the wording for that response. So all the information that you get is just going to be the number of people who agree with your wording, which might be sufficient. But if you want to know people's opinions the way they would express them, they're not the ones expressing their opinions. They're just sort of approximating their opinions by selecting one of your choices. So the question style that you ask is going to go a long way in determining what type of information you get and ultimately how useful that information will be. So short answers, those would be questions you would put on your survey if the response is intended to be a short verbal response, maybe a number that's not quite predictable, just anything that the user has to input and may be unique. Right? It's something that you don't believe that you can predict ahead of time what those responses will be. If you're going to ask people's opinions, you probably want to go with a paragraph response, since that will allow the respondents to type almost indefinitely. They're not going to, but it will allow them to type in a paragraph if they want and go into as much detail as they believe is necessary, and then you'll get their opinions the way they would word them. Checkboxes it's kind of like a multiple choice question, only you allow the user to select more than one of the choices. So, select all that apply types of questions. Drop-down menus are basically multiple choice questions just presented in a different way. Instead of a list, it's a drop-down menu, and then once they click on the drop-down menu, it will display the list of choices. File upload questions. They can upload a file or a document or something like that. Linear scale, if you're asking your respondents to rate a specific experience, and really you're just looking for something like, rate on a scale of 1 to 5. And then you can describe what a 1 means, is that good or bad, and what a 5 means, is that bad or good. And then you can get a sense numerically of where people stand. Multiple choice grids and checkbox grids are allowing multiple choice questions and checkbox questions, but there's multiple options, and they have the chance to respond to a number of different things in one question. For a survey, I'm not sure I would recommend that. The data is going to be a little bit much to handle, but it can be done. You can use design elements to break up your survey into different chunks. You can add sections and videos, things like that. Watch the video. What did you think about such and such? So when you're making a survey that you want people to fill out, do pay attention to what information you want, how it's likely to get to you best, and then choose a question style that best suits that. Also, when you're giving a survey, be careful about requiring responses for each individual question, especially for things like multiple choice questions where you come up with the wording. If you make that required, then somebody who may not agree with any of the things that they are presented with is forced to select one just to submit the form. So be careful with required questions. Typically that would be something like if you're collecting an email or a name or an address, and it's something that you have to collect. But in terms of their opinions, be a little bit more careful. If somebody doesn't want to offer their opinion, don't make them. Otherwise, you might get responses where it's just like a period in the blank, and okay, fine, but it is annoying to the person filling out the survey if a response is required and they don't want to give one. So the big lesson here is just make sure that you understand what type of information that you want and select the appropriate question to get it.